Cheers.
Hi guys, I hope you've been well. I am Sherry Cherustui. I'll be your guest moderator for today's topic on Let's Talk. Now, we have a very important, incredibly important and thought-provoking topic to discuss today. And it's about a special interest group in Kenya, which we refer to them as intersex persons. And just before I let our guests introduce themselves, I wanted to let you know that, did you know that in 2019, 1,524 intersex persons were counted during the census? This is just for you to think about how many more that we didn't get to record. I'll let them introduce themselves and tell you what they do before we get right into it. Karibuni sana.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is James Nombi. I'm an advocate at the High Court of Kenya. I also a legislative drafter working with the Kenya Law Reform Commission, and I led the process of drafting the Intersex Persons Bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming, James.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brenda Dosio. I work at the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. I'm an assistant director and an advocate, and we are currently hosting the Intersex Persons Implementation Coordination Committee. And I really want to thank you for this opportunity for having this discussion.
Thank you, Brenda. Karibu.
My name is Anita Ben Maina from Jinsiango, a human rights defender.
Okay. Karibuni nyote. So for starters, I want James to just take us through the journey that has been in identifying the intersex persons in Kenya, and also maybe tell us a bit of some highlights from the draft bill you just mentioned.
Thank you, Sherry. So in terms of the journey started in 2007 when a person by the name Richard Mwasia was arrested. And this person apparently was an intersex person. He was charged with the offense of robbery with violence. He was found guilty and convicted. He was then taken to Community Maximum Prison. And at the Community Maximum Prison, he was actually confined together with the male inmates. And while in prison, he alleges that he was molested and abused by the fellow inmates. And as a result, he filed a petition before the High Court. And although the petition was dismissed, the court granted him compensation of Kenya shillings 500,000. So that is the first incident. That is a pre-2010 decision, meaning that some of the provisions that were used by the courts were actually provisions arising under the constitution that existed before the current constitution. Then recently there's a case, we call it the Baby A case. That is a post-2010 decision whereby a baby was born, but at birth the obstetrician realized that he had both male and female genitalia. And as a result, in his birth notification, they indicated a question mark, meaning that he was not able to be issued with a birth certificate. Again, as a result of that, he filed a petition before the High Court, and the court agreed that the rights had been infringed upon. So, based on that, the then Attorney General, that is Professor Gideon Muigai, constituted a task force. The task force was chaired by the then chairperson of the Kenya Law Reform Commission, Mr. Mbagenganga. And it had membership of various institutions, including the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights and also NGEK, among other state agencies. So the task force compiled a report and did a number of studies. And as a result of that report, in the 2019 census, the intersex persons were actually counted as the third gender. third sex, that is the I marker.
Yes.
Yes. So they were counted, and the number was in the tune of 1,500. But from the information we received and the technology gains we've had before, we realized that that is not the correct figure. So as a result of that report, the task force report, there was a committee that was also constituted. It's called the IPIC, that is the Intersex Persons Implementation Coordination Committee, which is actually hosted at the commission, that is the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. So the commission has been providing status updates to the Office of the Attorney General, and because of the issue of legal recognition, because currently there is no law that recognizes intersex persons except for the Children's Act.
Yeah.
Because before the 2022 Children's Act was enacted, intersex persons were not recognized, meaning that the existing legislation, that is the Births and Death Restrictions Act, that is CAP 149, currently only recognizes the male and female sex markers. That means that in the regulations that have been provided, they only have the M and F. So meaning that when a child is born, just like we saw in the baby case, they are not able to be recognized, because even the officials, the registered persons, is on the registered deaths and births, is not sure how to categorize that kind of person. Then we also have the Registration Persons Act. This is the act that allows the registered persons the power to issue IDs. And if you look at your ID, it also has the sex mark. So meaning that it's male, it will indicate M. If it is female, it will indicate an F. So currently, those documents also does not recognize intersex persons. So what we're providing for the bill is that we are creating a third mark, that is the I marker, which is basically will provide for legal recognition for the intersex persons.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. I know maybe there's somebody there still wondering, our intersex ni kina nani? What exactly are we talking about? But one thing for sure, they live amongst us. We know them. I have friends who are intersex. I have colleagues who are intersex persons. You know a parent who has an intersex child. And I will leave this to Ben, uweze tu kutuexplainia easily to how somebody would be able to know who an intersex person is.
At first, I would like to make our viewers to know who is an intersex person. And
Yeah.
an intersex person is a person who is born with sex characteristics that can't fit in the typical male or female because of 4 key areas. A person may be born with an ambiguous genitalia, hormones, chromosomes, or gonads, which are key to distinguishing a person whether it's either male or female. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Now, James, you mentioned something about the Children's Act 2022. I will pose this question to Brenda to just tell us about the provisions that were now added in the Children's Act 2022 in matters intersex.
So thank you very much for that question. So the Children's Act went through a very long process of being reviewed, and last year the bill actually passed and it became the Children's Act of 2022. Now in the Children's Act there is actually now formal recognition of an intersex child, and it starts by giving us a proper definition, just as Ben has shared with us, a very elaborate definition of who an intersex child is. And that definition is actually drawn from one of the recommendations that came from the task force report. So it gives us the definition of who the intersex child is. And it's great because that now gives them formal recognition and takes us further in terms of doing the advocacy for the third sex marker, which is the I, thus eliminating discrimination of an intersex child. Another aspect of the Children's Act that caters towards the intersex child is it speaks about the birth documents, the registration documents.
Yeah.
So just as we heard from James about the journey leading us to the current advocacy was parents with intersex children are having a problem because there are only 2 markers. So it was either be forced to leave the hospital with a birth notification that later on could lead to challenges for the intersex child, or then go through a very protracted process like that of baby A, where they have to go to court and legislate about the kind of registration documents. So the Act is elaborates on access to birth documents for children, and also registration documents thereafter. It also focuses on issues of treating the child with dignity. Dignity meaning that they're able to access medical care. Yeah. So most of the time, intersex persons, and particularly children, because of the stigma that's there, and also people not being able to recognize how to handle them, they're not able to get appropriate medical attention. So the Act elaborates on the right of the child and the ability to be able to access medical treatment, and also be given special considerations, like under our social protection programs. Another aspect of the Children's Act is it also protects the child from harmful practices. When a child is born with ambiguous genitalia, sometimes the parent or the caregiver might feel, I want to correct this, and therefore subject them to surgery, which is harmful. So the Act protects them from that and says unless for any medical reasons, the doctor provides or suggests a reason, then the child should not be subjected to any kind of harmful medical practice or mutilation. Then, of course, we live in society, so that would mean at some point we do come in conflict with the law. And so the Act provides that if a child is in conflict with the law, when they are going through the judicial process, they'll also be given special consideration, of course, because of the stigma that they might face, and also they'll be held in separate facilities. So that has also been factored into to the Act. And just then right from the onset, it also just declares intersex children as persons requiring to be considered as persons in need of care and protection. So those are the inclusions in the Children's Act of 2022.
Okay, thank you so much for that elaborate definition and just taking us through. I'm so sure most Kenyans don't read like in detail some of these acts, maybe because it doesn't affect you, or maybe when they usually say if you're trying to hide something,
write it down,
write it in a book, or just write it down, what wataikosa. But definitely I think that's been eye-opening enough. We have had you speak about stigma, we've had you talk about the society as well and how they treat intersex persons. In this advocacy journey, there's so much and so many challenges that intersex persons go through. And I don't think of anybody better to tell us about them than Ben. I'd really like it if you personalize it kidogo and tell us maybe even when you found a challenge, not just what we can read on Google or in books or in the acts and bills that are being drafted. So maybe you tell us some of the challenges that you might have gone through when you're growing up, or even your parents, maybe your siblings, and just bring it home to us better.
Okay, thank you for bringing it to that point, whereby I personalize the issues that I've gone through as an intersex person. First is from the birth, being born and being given a name, and after growing to a certain point, your parents look at it and they're like, no, this is not the person that is fitting what we are bringing up. Like being born and being given the name Anita Then all of a sudden, this is not Anita, it's Ben. It was a challenge, and with the help of the doctors, the parents were like, they had to normalize this for me to fit in the bracket of being female. Yet the doctors said that it can't, or rather, they can't normalize. I don't know the reason why. And being taken to the hospital, getting up to theatre and no surgery that was done, I don't know what happened. And to this point, I thank God, despite hearing from others who went at the IGM, and it really affects them even mentally. Then when it comes to health, it's still a challenge because, for instance, if you have a cervix and you deserve to have cervical screening, it's a challenge because the tools that the doctors will be using won't be fitting. So you end up missing the opportunity to have the screening, which is a challenge because you have the body and sexual reproductive health is allied. Then when it comes to education, I've been to, since I joined high school, I went to 6 different schools. Reason being stigmatized and discriminated because of the way you look, the way you speak. And people make fun of it. People try to confirm who you are, so you end up quitting. When it comes even to access of maybe public spaces, for instance, Joya Kanjo, it may look funny, but it's a challenge. You get to the men, you find someone telling you, see huku, ni the other side. When you get to the other side, they are like, see huku, ni the other side. So it's a challenge, you're like, where should I go? Yeah.
Okay. And do you think that there's also that gap in employment opportunities for intersex persons?
Yeah, it's there. When it comes to the documents that I have in the person that I am. We are 2 different people. And most of the time you find someone has qualified for the job, but the documents that the person has are the hindrance for you to acquire the job. So you end up not being given job because you're impersonating.
Well, I also had a problem after now being more informed and also just understanding and asking enough, where I saw ile time yenye kama una apply job online where they need you to say what gender you are, and there's only male and female. Squeezing it asks me, because I'm like, there's also another gender that you need to include. There's also more. You don't have to know about my gender if you say that it's gender inclusive of all of us. How is that information beneficial to you? Unless ni job yenye dem haizifanya ama boy haizifanya ama intersex haizifanya. If it's not and it's gender neutral, I feel like it's useless information. But it also kind of discriminates to some level for that intersex person who's fully qualified. Anaweza jaza everything, lakini hapa kwa identify, you've got it wrong. Yeah, because I'm neither male, I'm neither female. But also, is this information useful? So it's inakukata kwa hiyo selection process. Because if you're a job seeker, which I know most, if not all of us are, for those who are not self-employed, you obviously want other chances to try out career growth and all that. Na kuna konga na ile part yenye kwa kale ka red star, asterisk, like you have to answer. So I feel like pia hiyo kidogo is a bit discriminating, and I don't know if you're an employer, if you can work on this. I would really appreciate it on a personal level, where either it's not there or it's voluntary. Yeah. The same way, kuna some places you don't have to state your marital status or your religion. We also don't have to state our gender unless the gender is really, really important in the type of work that is being done. So I'll now push it back to Brenda. Brenda, we've had KNCHR, or Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, that are now qua stage here public participation of the draft bill that James has told us about. Tell us the importance of public participation, that stage in that journey of now passing a bill as law. tell us how important it is also for KNCHR and its advocacy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that question. So if we go back to the Constitution, which is the supreme law of Kenya, and Article 10, one of the national values is public participation. So with any kind of proposed legislation, you seek the opinions of the persons who are going to be affected, and also the Kenyans, so that they can input and make sure that it's relevant. So that's why public participation is very important. And as the Secretariat of IPIC, the coordination, the Implementation Coordination Committee, we've been able to go around 24 counties to undertake public participation. But we also did advertise this in the national dailies because we wanted to reach out to a mass of people, and it's also available on the it's been available on the KNCHR website during the period of public participation, because we wanted to make sure we got as much feedback as possible, much diverse feedback as possible, so that by the time the proposed bill is now going to the legislators, it has all the, it reflects what Kenyans are saying or are proposing in terms of recognition of intersex persons. So public participation is very important in terms of engaging and including and making sure everyone's voice is found in the proposed bill.
Okay. So for even you who's at home and maybe you didn't get a chance to participate in the public participation that's ongoing in all counties in Kenya, kwa website ya KNCHR, which is www.knchr.org, you can submit your comments kwa the bill. It's there, right? And they can submit maybe their comments and also take part in the drafting of the bill. I also carried a few publications that we have that are also available on our website. And this is just a pamphlet, imeandikwa Born Intersex. It has a summarized information for you to just know and get well acquainted with the information that we're talking about. Pia kuna book hapa inaitwa Wajibika. It also has a lot of information on intersex persons, human rights advocacy in Kenya. Now, I want to ask James, Saizi, before the draft bill is passed, what legal or what laws are there that can protect an intersex person, and to what sphere? For example, we might have an intersex person up on our watch, and we've talked about the first case where this person was arrested and taken maybe to a male's prison. We also have maybe a preteen intersex. What law can protect him or her from, as you've said, non-intrusive surgeries or what? Just in a layman's term, because the Japan lawyers, the terms in that confuse people. What are some laws that can protect them before this bill is passed that we have? Just in general, easily.
Thank you, Cheryl, for that question.
Yeah.
So in terms of laws that we have, I'll start with the Constitution. So the Constitution is the supreme law. It is the law from where all laws originate. And in that Constitution, we have Chapter 4, which provides for the human rights. And the human rights that are provided for in the Constitution applies to everyone, including the intersex persons. And I've just noted that the AU in March, the African Union, adopted a resolution that requires all state parties to promote the rights of intersex persons, in the sense that they are required to provide for the legislative and policy measures that protect the rights of intersex persons. So in the Constitution we have Article 2.5 and 2.6 that says that the convention that the country has ratified forms part of the laws of this country. So basically the AU resolution will also form part of the laws of this country. Then we also have the Children's Act. But the Children's Act is limiting in the sense that it only recognizes the intersex child.
Yeah.
So an intersex adult is not recognized, and that's why we saw it necessary that we develop the Intersex Persons Bill 2023.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I'd also like to know from Ben.
If I may.
Yes,
If it's okay.
please. Yes.
Yeah, so of course we have the Children's Act, which is looking after the children. Now we have the proposed bill, which is now going to be looking at the youth and the adults. But you see, at the end of the day, as much as this advocacy started with some gaps in the I can call it in the legal system, whereby in the criminal system there was a challenge with the Richard Marcia case, then BBA, like in our civil system of registration. But also going back to the criminal system, they had been encountering the intersex persons. And as a result, if you now look at the Person Deprived of Liberty Act, it actually makes reference to the intersex person.
Okay.
And so if they come into conflict with the law, it recognizes that they have that, they have the option to choose who will be able to do the body search.
Yeah.
So at least that is an indication that there are aspects of recognition and the criminal system through the penal laws. So just wanted to add on that.
Thank you for that. Now, in case you also didn't know, as in the journey of inclusion of intersex persons, even in policy making and other spheres, we had last year during elections, we had Kwamboka Kibagendi running for a seat. Please, ilikuwa MCA.
Mukuru kwa Jenga.
Yes. Other than that, we also have at KNCHR, we have a commissioner, Dr. Dennis Wamana, who's also an intersex person. And I feel like the journey is heading in the right direction with the likes of James, Brenda, and Ben taking us through the challenges, giving it all their passion and actively being involved in matters intersex rights. I would like to know how more can we include you in the society, or how more would you feel more included, like part of us, instead of the discriminations? Because, you know, there are times or there are utterances that we may have made that we didn't know hurt the intersex persons. Maybe pia kuna ile term that you guys don't like being used to be addressed with. So how more can we include you, and also just tell us some of the terms that don't sit well with intersex persons?
Okay. For intersex people to be inclusive in most of aspects in the society, one thing is like we ensure that most of the people are aware about intersex people, because for instance, you can mention somewhere or rather ask some people who is an intersex, they have no idea.
Yeah, true.
Yet if they come to be aware, the intersex was formerly known as hermaphrodite.
Oh yeah.
Which is more so linked to animals, yet intersex person is not an animal. So if most of the people come to be aware of intersex people, stigma and discrimination will come to an end, because they will be aware of 1, 2, 3. For instance, an example, some years back, if you would say about menstrual health, or rather the periods, period shaming, it was something weird. But nowadays, it's normal.
It's normal, yeah.
So if most of the people come to be aware, will be included in most of areas. For instance, in an institution whereby they are aware of intersex people, if I surrender my documents, reading different names with whom I am, you are aware there's intersex people.
Yeah.
You'll come to ask, are you an intersex person? And you'll end up accommodating me or another person who is seeking such job. And maybe, for instance, even in the public spaces, you end up maybe having washroom is a charge, whereby you can have a neutral.
Yeah.
Whereby, for instance, most of the time when I'm in town and I get to the choo ya Kanjo and I'm told, si huku ni huko, si huko ni huko. I always question myself, kwani nyumbani baba anaendanga yake na mama yake? So I'm like,
by the way, yeah.
Hapa, yeah.
Yeah. And I think even we can also bring on board watu wa immigration. I'm so sure kuna wale wenye traveling documents and the person that is here mtu anaweza tamiwa as an imposter, or maybe kwa bank. Maybe kwa bank you're seeking banking services and they feel like, hey, are you impersonating someone? Are you really the person? So I feel like the more aware, as you said, the more aware that we are, even as individuals, the better for intersex persons, the more inclusive and the more comfortable you will be to also live amongst us, because we're all humans, aren't we? I'd like to bring this conversation to an end. I would like you to maybe provide more information where, in case somebody wants to talk to you directly or ask you anything, how would they find you?
You can get to my FB sites, Anita Ben, one name, minor, or rather at TikTok, at 373 Benso.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sawa, sawa. For Brenda, I think I can provide more information on KNCHR on how you can also get you.
Yeah.
So, or would you like to do it?
Yeah, sure. We can both do it.
Yeah.
So, okay. So once again, also thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah.
And also just to chip in a bit on, it really is critical for people to get to open their minds and learn and understand what an intersex person is, or who an intersex person is. And the intersex persons I've interacted with, they're actually very brilliant people. And you'll be amazed as in they're just, you know, people in society who we just need to make sure that they can enjoy and access their rights like any other person.
Yeah.
Because I keep on saying, as much as this advocacy journey in Kenya started around 2007, God was in the business of creating human beings longer than that. And that tells you that intersex persons have always been with us. And as for those who read the word, we are told that we are made in the image of God. God does not make any mistakes. So if God is showing us that this is a replica of Him, we have no business stigmatizing anyone, but we just have to find ways to live together and make sure that the rights that we are able to access every day, that we really take for granted, that every other member of society who also is an intersex person can be able to access it. So in terms of contacting the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, we have headquarters, which is based in Nairobi, CVS Plaza. You can walk in and interact with the staff there on any human rights issue. But we also have regional offices. So if you're not based in Nairobi, not to worry. We have an office in the Western region, which covers all the old Nyanza area. So that physical office is in Kisumu, in Jubilee Plaza. Then in the coast region, we also have an office that caters for all the 6 coastal counties. The office is based in Mombasa, in a building called the Imara Building on 10th floor. Public office, no charges. We have an office in North Rift. It is based in Kitale. We also have an office in Wajir. We have an office in Isiolo, and we have an office in Nyahururu. So if you ever need to interact with us, you can find us in any one of those offices. We also have our social media handles, which I can refer to you.
Kwa social media, on Instagram we're at HakiKNCHR, zote ni underscore lowercase. Then we have on Facebook Kenya National Commission on Human Rights in full. On Twitter it's HakiKNCHR. Pia YouTube, there's a lot of information there. Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, and also I'll add a toll-free line that we recently have, which is free of charge once you call, and complaints and investigations officer will pick it up and take your case, and the number is 0800 720 627. Take a note of this number, share it with anybody who might need it, not only in matters intersex rights, but any other human rights concerns that you may have. And as she said, you can also walk in to the offices to get assisted. We will let James give us his parting shot and also how you will be able to access him.
Thank you, Sherry. So in terms of the parting shot is that the proposed bill provides for the legal recognition of intersex persons. It speaks to the problems that has been identified, including issues of employment, access to social amenities, issues of education, and of course even those who have been deprived of liberty, like we saw in the Richard Musa case. So we're hoping that Parliament will take the initiative to adopt and enact the bill so that the intersex persons could enjoy their rights as envisaged in the Constitution. So in terms of access, it could be reached at info, email address that is info@klrc.go.ke, or at John Nombi, that's my address, at klrc.go.ke.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
At Kensi Cha, we say haki kwa wote, kila wakati. I've been your moderator for today. Thank you so much, Pulse, for providing this platform for us. We hope that it has opened your eyes and your minds on a lot that's been happening in the society. But till next time, bye-bye.
Share.